In The Superannuated Man, Charles Lamb recounts his experiences and reflections upon retiring from his long career as a clerk in a London office. He begins by describing the tediousness and monotony of the job, which he had held for over 36 years. The essay captures the emotional weight of his daily work life, reflecting on how it left him feeling drained and trapped. Lamb's tone, initially melancholy, reflects the oppressive routine he had endured, and it sets the stage for his eventual sense of liberation when he is granted retirement. Life as a clerk, the strain of routine. Lamb vividly portrays the grinding monotony of his work as a clerk in a counting house. He describes his repetitive tasks and the rigid structure of his workday, which left him little time for leisure or intellectual pursuits. His life had become a series of fixed routines, with no hope of change or variety. Lamb expresses how this monotonous existence took a toll on his health and spirits, describing the physical and mental exhaustion that accompanied his years of labor. His frustration with the unchanging cycle of work reflects a deep sense of entrapment. The moment of freedom, retirement granted. The turning point in the essay comes when Lamb is unexpectedly granted retirement. His employers, recognizing his long years of service, decide to retire him with a pension. This moment is a profound release for Lamb, and he describes his feelings of disbelief and astonishment. Having expected to work until death, the sudden prospect of freedom overwhelms him. The transition from a life of unrelenting labor to one of leisure and autonomy feels almost dreamlike to Lamb, and he marvels at the unexpected turn of events. The shock of freedom. After the initial joy of being freed from his obligations, Lamb begins to grapple with the shock of his newfound freedom. He reflects on how strange it feels to no longer be bound by the strict schedule of his office life. The sudden shift from a regimented existence to one with endless time at his disposal leaves him disoriented. Lamb compares himself to a man released from prison, unsure of what to do with his freedom. This emotional confusion reflects the difficulties that can accompany major life transitions, even when they are positive. Relearning how to live. Lamb describes the process of adjusting to his new life, emphasizing how strange it felt to have control over his own time. He recounts how, in the first days of his retirement, he would wake up expecting to go to work, only to realize he was free to do as he pleased. This sense of liberation was both exhilarating and unsettling. Lamb had spent so many years adhering to a strict routine that he had forgotten how to enjoy leisure. He reflects on the challenge of learning how to live without the structure that had governed his life for so long. The joys of leisure. As Lamb gradually becomes accustomed to his new life, he begins to revel in the joys of leisure. He describes how he now has time to indulge in activities he had long neglected, reading, walking, and simply observing the world around him. Lamb expresses a deep sense of appreciation for the simple pleasures of life, such as spending time in nature and enjoying the company of friends. His newfound freedom allows him to reconnect with his intellectual and creative interests, which had been stifled by his work. The essay conveys a sense of contentment as Lamb rediscovers these pleasures. A new perspective on time. One of the most significant changes Lamb experiences in retirement is his altered relationship with time. He contrasts the rushed, structured nature of his former work life with the leisurely pace of his current existence. Time, which had once been something to measure and manage, now flows freely. Lamb reflects on how, in retirement, he no longer feels pressured by deadlines or the demands of others. He describes the freedom of being able to spend his days as he wishes, without the constant anxiety of work-related responsibilities. This new relationship with time is one of the great joys of his retirement. Health and well-being restored. Lamb also reflects on how retirement has improved his physical and mental well-being. The stress and strain of his years as a clerk had taken a toll on his health, but now, with the burdens of work lifted, he begins to recover. He describes feeling more energetic and less anxious, and he finds pleasure in activities that were once out of reach due to his demanding schedule. Retirement allows Lamb to focus on his health, both physically and emotionally, and he acknowledges the positive impact this has had on his quality of life. Reflections on identity. Throughout the essay, Lamb reflects on how his identity has shifted in retirement. For many years, his work had defined who he was, shaping his daily existence and social interactions. Now, without the role of clerk to anchor him, Lamb contemplates who he is outside of that identity. While this can be unsettling, Lamb ultimately embraces the idea that he is more than his job. He finds fulfillment in his creative and intellectual pursuits, and he enjoys the opportunity to explore new aspects of himself that had been overshadowed by his work. A quiet satisfaction. In the final paragraphs, Lamb expresses a quiet satisfaction with his new life. He acknowledges that while retirement may come with challenges, such as the loss of routine and the need to redefine one's sense of purpose, it also brings immense rewards. He enjoys the peace and tranquility of his days, free from the pressures and demands of his former work life. Lamb's tone in the conclusion is one of contentment and reflection. He has found happiness in his retirement, not in grand achievements or ambitious projects, but in the simple pleasures of life and the freedom to live on his own terms.